Welcome to CO Beam Rally Team, sponsored by Clark's Core Rear Parts. I'm Tyler. This time, we're going to finish the floorboard. We spent the whole last episode and 2 weeks of my time creating floor patch panels for the seat brackets. Now it's time to install them and install the Clark's replacement floor pans. Here you can see the hole where my patch panel goes in. There's the patch panel, and then the floor pan patch goes up here. So we're going to put this one in first. This one I actually just completed and I have not test fit it yet. I'm hoping it fits. Looks like it's going to be perfect. I think I can cut just a little tiny sliver more off, and then we got to line this up with the other pieces on the floor. Dad's over here removing the blower motor, so don't mind him. We're going to be up here. I got a piece extended here because once we put this in, it was going to have a hole next to the side piece here, so this will cover us and bridge that gap. So I think I'm going to take this seat bracket up now, and before we put this kind of cross member in here, I'm going to bolt this up to our new panel, and we'll get that situated and tack it down, and that should allow us to cut and butt, drop this thing in, and we can put that front cross member on afterward. Here's the blower motor we got out, full of mouse house. The whole heater box was full of mouse house. Good to get that out so I don't accidentally turn it on or something and then have gunk. Did you get it?
Yeah. Here.
To be clear, this is a volunteer position. I didn't ask him to do this. Is she coming out? Oh, gross. Got it. Disgusting. Ugh.
I think we had to take that off to get to the brake lines and stuff. And the gas lines go right in back of that.
Now we do have to do the engine mount back here, right? Because the bolts broke off. Oh, Salem lights. Nice. Here's a good time to show off the other things that I found in the car. While I was cleaning out the floors, I found not only the fuse here, but this wild Aunt Jemima token thing. Pancake days are here again, it says. Well, it's fun to find that. I wish it was in better condition. It's kind of trashed, but I don't know, might keep it anyway. As a child of the 60s, I have to ask you, have you ever eaten pancakes in the family car?
Not in the car, no.
It wasn't a common occurrence?
We used to go to International House of Pancakes, though. So the only way you can get these bolts out is take this thing out. This is the same heater box as on the ramp side, I think.
Wow. Oh, a little bit rusted out there.
A little bit.
Oh man.
That's about the way the other one was that are restored.
Well, we're going to continue on the floor here. We do have this raised piece here, and that is actually going underneath the panel that I made. So we got to make sure we cut this out at least with enough clearance to go beneath that. That way we can do an effective cut and butt. Ah, we got a little corner there. Ha! Dang it. So this is the bracket that goes over the top. This goes in the hole, around the hole, so I got a little extra here. Make sure our line lines up. I'm not too concerned if these raised panels here don't line up with the other ones, because the most important thing is the seat lines up. Alright, can't see anything, but that works. Awesome. As we talked about in the video for these things, I'm going to go through with the cut and butt. I got it tacked down so it's kind of laying pretty flat, and then we're going to go in with an angle on this edge here and cut out the part that's behind it, and then we'll keep a couple of the tacks in place, drop this down, tack that flush, and then we'll cut these tacks off, drop that flush, and then we can worry about the back end of this thing, or the outside end of this. Well, we got these tacked in flush here, and trying to turn the corner here, but it looks like this flange here is going to have to come out. It's rusty anyway, it's got to come out anyway, so we'll kind of pull that band-aid off right now, get in there, and I'm just going to work my way around. Hopefully this tacking goes well and we can come back and get this corner a little bit later on. That's an issue where I have a little gap there I didn't know I had. Well, I've realized that sometimes if I get started at like 11 o'clock or midnight, I can get another hour or two of work in that I wouldn't otherwise get in. So last night I actually worked on the car till like 2 a.m. Let's go see what I did. Welded in on the two sides here. I did the kind of tacky stuff and I got it together, and then tried to do kind of a semblance of a bead around the edges here just to flatten it out a little bit. I found that we have some rust through here, so I didn't bother finish welding up here because I figure we're gonna fix it with the rest of it. Did 2 tacks up here. I gotta finish this one, and then I think right now we're gonna start doing some kind of L bracket here to try to connect the patch panel to the rocker. Instead of struggling against bending things again, I'm just going to use the bend in this filing cabinet divider. That's kind of concerning, but I'm not going to be able to do anything about it now. We'll just cover it up and we'll do seam sealer on the bottom, and hopefully that doesn't do anything worse. The whole bottom of the car, the whole floor was covered in water because the window was broken out. So I assume that water came right in, rusted up from there, and hopefully with the window installed, it's not going to worsen or repeat that problem. Well, it went okay, I think. These are a lot cleaner welds than I've had over on this stuff. We're going from new material to new material with a lap joint as well, not a butt joint.
Both our engine mount bolts broke off flush there. So I've been trying to get them out, and they stick out about that far on the backside. And
What's this?
the end of the bolt's all rusty, so I'm going to try and clean it off in there, but I can't get anything up in there.
Can you see the bolts? Yeah, there's the bolt head. It's not great. Might be okay. We got the bracket here marked up. We're gonna cut this off, cut a slit in here, and then these will bend up as tabs. Haha, I ground down all my welds, so you don't know if they're any good, but they're good. Trust me. Trust me. So we got a couple tacks in here too. This is the kind of floor support here going into my replacement floor panel piece. So we might end up trimming that down a little bit because it sticks out a little bit further than the other stuff, but for now it's okay. We're not going to worry about it too much. I really would like to go and plop this floor pan in here now, but I think I ought to check out this rust pitting over here first.
Taking the rear engine mount bolts out, they've been stuck in there. This one we drilled out and then welded a nut on the one side, and I was able to pull it out backwards.
Well, he's gonna rock on this. I have been crazy busy this week, but he's been thankfully getting something done on the car. You think you'll get it out today?
That's the plan.
Something's missing here.
It's just easier to get in here to clean this up to paint it, and I have to replace the battery tray too.
So So we couldn't find the engine mount. What's your next thing to do?
I'm gonna take this Clark's replacement battery box and figure out how to install it. I don't think we're gonna install the whole thing. I think we're gonna end up cutting it off and then cutting that to match and doing a little welding.
Like around just kind of the base?
Yeah.
We have a seam here where the original floor pan kind of turns downward, and they had some really old seam sealer in there that just didn't survive the test of time. It was kind of holding a little moisture, it looks like, or it pulled away from the metal and held moisture between the metal and it. Anyway, we have to clean up in there in that seam before I go in and do any work in here. It's kind of a long shot, but I think I'm going to try to fill it up with rust remover, the liquid, and see if that will work. It's worth a try, I guess. Try to put it in here. I don't know how else to get in there, so we're gonna let it cook and see what happens. The rust remover seems to have done something. I might give it another bite to eat tonight, but then again I might not. We can go ahead with cleaning the rest of the floor pan up here in the corners. Show me the little crimp pieces there.
Had a couple slots here that the thing was crimped onto right there.
So they didn't weld it from the factory.
Yeah, they just bent it over, then must have punched it with something.
Yeah. Now that I've gotten the Clark's floor pan kind of test fit in here with the pieces in place, I can see that it actually seems like it's supposed to replace the original factory pieces, not lay on top of them, and I was kind of unsure about that before. So what we're going to have to do is get this portion all cleaned up and ready. We have some holes up here to take care of, and then I have to cut a line down here so I can kind of butt that replacement floor pan up, because I don't want to have to re-drill these pieces. This center piece is fine. I don't want to have to re-drill the holes and cut that stuff out and worry about where the shifter is. So we'll come back later when I have something that's cleaner to work with here.
This has got to tip up a little bit, so I got to trim some more.
Looks good though.
I don't know about these, what to do with those.
I would cut them in the middle and then smash them flat.
Oh, that makes sense.
I have left some of my tools at work because the Cabrio broke again, so I was going to go diagnose that at work, but I was leaving my tools there all week trying to get to it, just didn't get to it. So we're going to go out, get the tools, come back, and I have some bad news. We got rust here, we got rust here, we got rust here, and then between these layers up here is total rust. Everything kind of looks like this all the way through. Not great, not happy about it, but this is going to have to come out. I was hoping I wouldn't have to do that, but it's getting to that point that there's no practical reason to keep this here now that I'm going to have to be doing all this stuff, and it's just getting in the way. I guess that's pretty much where I'm ending up here. I'm going to clean up the little spot welds in there. Going to clean up the front and rear, but we can see that does have a kind of double thickness sheet metal underneath the shifter, so when you bolt it through, it actually has, I guess, something more to rest on. Looks like that piece of metal is thankfully in pretty good shape, so we don't have to do too much work to it, but these side ones are going to need a little bit of love.
Well, it's my first attempt at welding two pieces of sheet metal together.
Pretty good first attempt.
Luckily, those get ground.
I decided to test fit this again with the middle gone. It's fitting pretty well. I still need to cut down this to get the side piece off, but I think she's going to fit really well. Comes up here, and I'm realizing, I probably didn't need to do all the work with this cross member here, but I'd rather have two than one, so gonna be okay. This middle part is pretty ugly and I don't want to deal with it yet, so I'm gonna come over here and we gotta take care of the rust in this corner here. You've already seen me work on that part, you know what's going on there, so we're not even gonna do that. I'm gonna try to get all this stuff cleaned up and ready to go. The next time we come back, I'm hoping that I actually can say that, but the next time we're gonna come back, we're gonna come back to actually work on these things. I don't want to work on them, but nobody else is gonna do it for me, like that battery box. My dad's working over here on not only the battery box, but kind of pulling some seam sealer out and getting ready to prep this thing for paint.
Seems like the seam sealer is just packed in huge chunks all up in here. I mean, there's a huge gap here that was filled with seam sealer. All this, where the rust is, had seam sealer over it. So it's a lot of seam sealer.
It's a universal fix-all, isn't it?
Yep. I mean, they just slapped her on. It's got paint on top of it, so
yep.
They slapped her on and sealed up all the holes.
And we're finding more issues in the rain tray drip area here. Looks like probably all this needs to be replaced on both sides, unfortunately. So this side is also looking pretty rough. And then in here is some real horror.
Oh yeah.
Got a pretty big hole up there, so we gotta figure that out.
Well, that was a body plug.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I don't see any reason to have it. She just fiberglass over the whole thing.
Probably could. It'd probably be easier than trying to weld that.
This is still pliable back in here, some of this stuff. It's amazing. I mean, most of it's hard, but some of it's still pliable. So, for the battery tie-down, it didn't come with one on that side, but this is similar to what was on the car originally, so we're just gonna put that right across from this one. Tack welder in.
And that piece of metal from a filing cabinet, it had the bend in it already. So I'm gonna keep rocking on the seat brackets. We'll come back when that's in. And if you have missed any of this stuff, go ahead and watch the previous 2 videos on the Corvair, because I've gone through all this stuff before. I'm just doing repeat work now and not taking you along for all the duplicates.
The heater box is pretty crusty. In order to clean it out inside, the best way to do it is to split it in half. When I did mine for the ramp side, I learned a couple lessons. One was the instructions from Clark said you could either drill out the spot welds, or you could take a chisel and try to split them. The chisel did not work at all. Drilling them out worked pretty well. And then I didn't drill 1/8 inch holes ahead of time to pop rivet it back together. So I put some punches in here and I'm gonna drill some 1/8 inch holes so it's all lined up. It's easier to line up before I split it apart. So
1/8 inch holes, 1/4 inch holes.
hopefully it'll split apart. Then we can wire wheel the whole thing. Pour 15 the inside, outside. Put it back together. How's it looking there?
Hard to see.
I got this all apart here. Unless it's stuck over here somewhere. Looks like it's stuck right here.
Just snip the staples.
I gotta do that too. Sometimes they just split right apart. There we go. Now give me a snippers.
Much as I hate plastic parts, today they probably would have made that part with 2 pieces of glass fiber reinforced ABS and glued them together, and honestly it would never get rusty, and seems like that would be the better version right now. Angle. There we go.
Looks like I missed one more rivet here, maybe.
some rust from sitting out in the rain for a night.
Not too bad. You know, this was a problem with mine too. Like the critters got in there and ate that. But I soaked these in rust remover. Then I put some tape on here and just put silicone on. It worked really well.
Interesting. Is that something that we can buy though?
I don't think they have heater box parts.
Well, this is workable. We can work with this. All right, guys, we're skipping forward about a week. I have spent the last week organizing and finally putting on this cool TSD rally that I've been working on for over a year now. It's called the Green Heck Gravel Rally. It was a 193 mile, 6-hour brisk gravel rally with street cars on regular roads up north. Some really, really cool rally racing roads we had hit from midnight to 6 a.m. And it was inspired by Press On Regardless, which is the rally that I'm taking this Corvair to in September. Anyway, had to get that out of the way, and I had to work on these floorboards, so let's take a look at what I've gotten done in the meantime, and I'll catch you up to speed on the next project. We got that patch panel welded in, and I had to weld that like 3 times to get all the holes out of it because little tiny pinholes pop up. But we got that in. I had to patch this a couple times, and I made actually a custom little corner piece in there that the members have seen in that members only video. Now the last thing that we need to take care of before I set this floor pan in is this center section. Originally I was thinking maybe this wasn't too bad, but the more I look at it, the more it just needs to be replaced. Let's go look under the car and see what that looks like underneath. It's going to be kind of hard to film down here, but bear with me. This is our long pan. It is long. And the long pan goes under from the front cross member. Here's the gas tank. Front cross member long pan connects up here in this bolt in the middle, and it goes along these kind of chassis rails all the way back. It covers the shift rod and the I think this is the throttle linkage, the clutch cable, the emergency brake cable, I think, and we have a fuel line here, brake line, like everything, all the controls in the car go under this pan. So it's kind of important to have this intact and strong. So I've been looking here, and this is a huge hole that we've got right here, and huge hole. So I got to make sure that these things are structural. So we're gonna recreate this thing from scratch. And I also noticed that this piece, which also houses that long pan, is pretty corroded itself. Even back here is even worse. It's got a huge hole right here, and it's just like missing a part. So this thing is pretty much Swiss cheese. I gotta figure out how to reproduce these things. This one's pretty thin metal, but this one seems a little bit, either it's thicker or it's more structural because of the bends in it. You can see kind of some of the rust holes down in here that we haven't gotten to yet. But we can also see the floor patch that I put in here. So that's cool. I also have these cool stickers now, so check these out. These are chrome backed stickers. I did all the artwork myself, as I do with all my stickers. And Press On Regardless rally that I'm running in September with this car. And hey, there's the car. Pretty cool. These are not for sale. You have to either be a channel member, which channel member strips start at $5 a month to help support the projects, or you can buy anything on the website, and I will send you a free sticker for a limited time if you buy anything on the website. On the dad side of things, he actually said, you know what, let's skip the metal repair for now and get this thing on the road. So he did some fiberglass repairs in the little rust holes here. Now, most of this is not in the wheel well, but this little section here is exposed to road debris from the bottom, so that was a little bit rotten. We also had a little bit of a hole up in here, and that's kind of the spare tire well that is also exposed to road debris, road grime, and salt. So we're going to go clean up from the bottom as well and do some undercoating in there, hopefully keep that a little bit more protected. I was thinking we were going to pour 15 it, but I think we're going to do pour 15 metal prep and then paint it with a 2K aerosol that matches the color of the car, because I think the Corvairs were supposed to be kind of color matched in there. This one was black in here for some reason, but well, hell, we'll make it blue. That's fine. Well, sorry for the chicken making so much noise out there. I hope you can hear me. before I cut this stuff off, I want to see if I need any of the stuff up front. So I'm gonna set this in here and look at it. So that goes up all the way up to here, so I can cut that side off. All right, this side is going in first. If we take a look at how far that goes up here, we can cut this whole piece of metal out. Just go down to the cross member there, and we can tack that down to that cross member. So that'll allow me to get a lot more of the rust out and make a larger part that is hopefully going to serve me better. I don't know how you're supposed to do that, but for now, we're going to get that out. Oh my god. This process has been pretty disheartening. There's a lot of stuff here. We have some electrical tape around this wiring harness. Not liking that. I have a cut down here that I got into because I was not being very careful. And then we have a connector. I don't know what that goes to. Doesn't look too bad, but yeah. So we're gonna get all this stuff out of here. This is the fuel line, goes up to the tank. I actually cut this with a Dremel in the back because any fuel that used to be in there is now varnish and there's nothing going on. So we're gonna probably end up cutting the hose off there and getting a new fuel tank anyway. I'm gonna start pulling these things up through the floor and we'll chat about what's gonna actually go back in here. I noticed before that one of these holes is gonna actually come off when I cut this piece off here. So we want to show this. This is the throttle linkage kind of pivot for the gas pedal. So this one goes flat, straight side to side. So when I put this thing back on, I should be able to kind of easily set that on, bolt that in, mark that, and drill a new hole, put a new nut on it, and we should not be inconvenienced by this going away. Push it over. Got it most of the way. Sweet. What I did was made a separate piece that raises up and I marked it out. So we're gonna just weld this on like that and we'll cut away everything that is not part of it. Man, I'm pretty happy with the way these things came out. This thing, I got a couple blow-throughs like I've been usually having, but overall it was workable. And we got these bent up. They're all cleaned up. I think they're ready for some weld-through primer. Couldn't get the paint down there. I should have cleaned these things off before I bent them, but that's fine. We'll be doing all kinds of undercoating on that anyway. So we're gonna throw some weld-through primer on those. And once they get welded into the car, I'm gonna have to respace this piece that went on top. It was about right here. And I just don't know how long or how wide this is. So we'll just have to put that on and measure it, and then we'll make this piece later. Nikki's saying hi. Hey. Yeah. Sorry, I'll come around and get you. Yeah, everything was fighting me during this project, so I'm gonna go in and have a beer with Nikki for lunch, a little wheat lunch, and we'll come back out and get that the rest of it done. My dad's been working back in the engine bay here, and he had blown through a lot of this metal in the replacement battery tray. So he asked me to go through, because I've had a little more experience welding crappy thin sheet metal, and I did my best on all these welds. I don't think there are any holes now. I guess I forgot to put the little hook in, but the hook's got to go in too. Then I decided to go do my rally mods and do some stitch welding along the seams. There was apparently a previous repair here. I don't know what that was about, so I re-welded that. Got a little stitch over here, down here, and then up the side, and then the other side again. Not all of them look great. Some of them had a little bit of undercoating coming in the backside, so they bubbled up a lot. But I did my best and tried to redo them a little bit, and that's how they're going to be now. Anyway, that should give us a little bit better structure back here in the chassis, and then the car can brake in different interesting ways elsewhere in the chassis. These things were not really welded at all from the factory. It was like one glob here and nothing over here. So I did my best. Again, it was really hard to get the rust and crap out of there, so I just tried to get something penetrating, and it looks like crap, but I think it's going to be a lot better, more stronger. Dad got up early this morning and did the cleaner degreaser and metal prep on the whole engine bay here. Looking pretty good. We have that characteristic surface rust in a few places that the POR, the paint over rust 15, takes care of. So we're going to leave that the way it is. I ended up going in and grinding down the weld in the battery box here because I don't want the battery going over and potentially getting punctured by a sharp weld here. There's also, I've seen people take the 51 series battery, which comes up a little bit short, then they'll put a quart of oil or whatever on either side of the battery for storage. So I don't want those quarts of material getting messed up either. Now that the front cross member underneath the footwell is cleaned up with the rust gone, I've kind of lost my references for exactly where these brackets will go. So I think my best option is to install the long pin underneath the car without the brackets first. Sorry, Dad's grinding outside. I've measured these things out, and on the floor pan, these are 8 inches to the inside and 10 inches to the outside. These are 1 inch wide. So I got that all marked out so I can hold it down to where it needs to be. So we're going to hold it down and tack this thing in place. And just a reminder, these outside tabs are not there from the factory. That's just extra strength for me. And this outside flange is not there from the factory either, so that's extra strength as well. Here's what I cut off for this cross piece here. And there's not much to go off of, but I measured up and made a new one. This has, again, more strength on the sides. So this, I believe, just kind of locates the shifter piece here, the shifter bracket, from moving side to side. So we're going to push it down. I don't know why the heights are off a little bit, but the old pieces look the same as far as height, so I don't know what's going on with that. Dad's in here seam sealing the whole engine bay. Looking pretty good. Getting a little bit over those welds that I put in there just so we don't get any sharp edges. And then I asked him to go along this edge. We got a little hole over here, Dad. But otherwise, looking good. We're getting rid of some of the old seam sealer tubes that we've had sitting around forever. Got some stuff in the crack here. Otherwise, you know, just generally looking good there. I think it's going to be ready for paint tomorrow. Over here I'm working on my next project, which this is kind of where the long pan sits underneath the floorboard. I just want to have a nice new one before I put it in. So channel members are going to see a more detailed explanation on how I'm putting this together. So we'll go forward to installing them. Okay, so this is the front cross member. We have the shifter goes right here in this hole, and the long pan goes around that shifter, both sides. Now we have these new pieces here. They look pretty good, I think. This one had a few little rust holes under it, but I'm going to put some seam seal around it. I did extra long flanges on here, and I did a flange on the inside too. So it's got, I think, over double the strength of the original piece. Hopefully should make up for that issue with the underlying metal. And I probably will be irritated enough to go back and replace that metal in the future, but not right now. I gotta admit, I watched Rob Dom's last video before he went to Pikes Peak today, and the whole struggle of being right down to the deadline, past the deadline, extending the deadline, past the deadline, kind of speaks to my soul right now. And of course, I don't have the money and time that he has to do that kind of stuff, but I gotta say, I think the biggest problem that he had was the project management aspect of that project, of trying to go too far and trying to do too much at once. And so I'm trying to kind of learn from that and go put my best foot forward on this project, trying to do only what is necessary to get this thing on the road right now. I have 1,000 miles I have to put on it before like September 1st. and it's looking like it's going to be really tough to do that. So we're going to cut out a lot of non-essential parts of this build right now and just focus on, let's get it on the road, let's get it moving, and once it's moving and I can break the engine in and work out any drivability issues, then we can go forward and do all the other stuff that I want to do. We got the passenger floor pan sprayed with weld-through primer on the areas that are going to be tack welded or spot welded through. And in the footwell itself, we have the same weld-through primer around all the surfaces that are going to be touching anything. On the tops of these, I've ground off the Pour 15 that I had on, and I put on weld-through primer. So that should be all ready to weld to. There are a few places I know that I want to cut out. So first of all, I know I don't want any of the floor pan coming up the side here. I want to be able to set it straight down on this flange here that I've left and not worry about it. So that whole side is going to come off. I want to transition it up in here, and then I know that I have this to go, so I don't want to go all the way over the top here. It seems like a lot of extra material there, so I'm going to cut it a little bit down and try to weld it to this face here. So I can cut off the top of that, I can cut off the side of that, and those marks are roughly placed with the blue tape here. We'll have to see how far up the firewall I really want to go. Let's go fit this up and see how it looks. Once we get this all trimmed up in the front, it should fit a lot better. That is where our cutout is. So I think if I come down to around, let's say there, and then we can actually go straight over and then up like that. How about that? I have to massage this corner a little bit because it's not quite laying upright on that surface here like I want it to. I've been trimming it down, but I think it just needs to be hammered a little bit. And it looks like it's all coming down properly to the center as well, which is good. I'm confident enough to wear my welding helmet. I ended up cutting this corner out as well because that other piece from the driver's side will come and lay over it. I figure the less material, the better. Low 5, what up? It's in. Man, it's looking good. I'm pretty happy with it. It's Wednesday morning at 1 a.m. right now. I'm gonna go to sleep, go to work, and gonna pack. Thursday morning, first thing, my dad and I are leaving with the Chevy truck. We're gonna drive out to western Nebraska and pick up my new 62 F600, the cleaner one from the farm auction. So I'm very excited that I got to set this floor pan in before I leave. Hoping I'll be able to carve out enough time to go and put the other floor pan in, and then that would make me feel really good to at least have those tacked in. Get this video out to you guys. I know it's been super late. I mean, I think I'm like 3 weeks late on putting this video out. Just been trying to rock on this and do as much as possible. So. Before I put the driver's side on, I want to make sure the long pan is in place. That way all these brackets are tied up where they're supposed to be before I put anything down. Passenger floorboard is fitting pretty close to my bracket here, but it's kind of far off from the other bracket that was already in the car. So I'm going to have my dad put his hand in the middle of the floor pan and just press down a little bit. Can you do harder? Is that about it? We're gonna have to do a little bit more fitment here. Over on this side, I don't have that big of concerns. I think we're gonna do about the same thing. Probably tack the middle first on this side and then the outsides. I forgot to do that on the first side, but yeah, we'll try tacking on the inside and see if that will kind of let everything else fit where we want it to. I've trimmed this thing a lot. It's gone on way too long, but this corner's been giving me trouble for some reason. On both sides it was, well, it's good it was cut a little bit long so I can trim it down. I can't imagine how difficult it must be to design a floorboard that goes over the original stuff, but they did a really good job. So that matches up nice. That matches up nice. We got clearance in here. I'm gonna have to, I think, hammer this in somehow. Gonna need a little hammer work as well. Over here it's fitting really nicely. In the corner I got it to fit really nicely. Along here it's perfect, and then up on the back it's perfect. So I think we're in really good shape. I don't know what the floorboard really looks like up here from stock. I know there's some kind of indent here, but I'm not exactly sure how all this is supposed to interact. So I think I'm gonna try to flatten this out a little bit, get that gap taken up a little bit, and we'll go flatten this out as well, get it all put together. And my alarm is going off. So that means that I need to go to work, and we will have to finish this up afterward. Very, very, very close. I know I want this thing to fit basically perfectly when I start welding. I don't want to be welding when it's not ready to go. So if I kind of match up my gas pedal here, it wants to be up here, but it's actually supposed to be down here. So I'm gonna remove this leaf here, and I'm gonna put a flat piece that matches this stuff in there instead. I think it's going to be a lot better situation, and it'll match the natural profile of the floor. As long as I push this down against the supports here, everything kind of is able to push in flat. I think that's the last part I need to do. That is right on the edge there. It's almost a butt weld. Over here, that's a little bit short, but we can deal with it. The back is all good. I think we're ready. This time I'm actually going to put a floor jack under the support here, and I'll try to push this down and get that to be as close as possible. Tack it in the middle and then work my way outward. It's only 68 degrees in here, but it is 88% humidity outside, and I am drenched in sweat. Great. Alright, I'm just having to massage this thing down into place. I know a couple things on this car aren't quite straight, and I'm just going to have to make them touch here. Now Kith. Just remember, it's a rally car. It's a kind of daily driver type thing. It's not meant to be a show car, so we're going to do what we have to. The floor is still going to be just as structural, and it's going to be, I got way more welds in here, I think, than the factory had, or at least as many, I should say. So I should have a very strong floor either way. Alright guys, it's about midnight, and I got the whole driver's side tacked in. I think that's about ready to finish weld. Still have to do this shifter area, and I'm going to wait to do that until I have the passenger one all drilled up and plug welded and put in place. So we are going to cut it off for now. My dad and I are leaving for Nebraska tomorrow morning. Well, this morning I should say. Very early, about 6 hours from now. And I'm going to have to put this on hold for a few days till we come back. I'll see you guys later. we're back from the trip. We got the F600, and I got to get back in this Corvair. You will see Will It Run on the F600 after the Corvair's on the road. So go and subscribe and like, and you'll see it later. But I don't have time to finish that right now. So we're going to go in this floor pan and get it all figured out. Unfortunately, I did this in the wrong order. I should have gone and drilled the holes and welded all these things into the lower supports first, like I did on that side, but can't undo that now. So we're going to cut out these tack welds, push this all down. I got the floor jack holding up on that floor support, and we can go and get this thing all settled in. This will move downward slightly, and then once that moves downward, we can re-tack it when this is all in. Got it all tacked in, looking pretty good. I had to use the hammer again to get some of this to line up correctly, and I accidentally cut a little bit too much off there. I didn't realize there was a thin metal up there, so we're gonna weld this in and bridge that gap later. Enough talking. I'm gonna hit this, put this all in, and we'll get it done. Oh wow, it's really cool to see floor pans in here. Finally, that's awesome. I don't know how many times I've done this, and I still haven't learned to go get the right socket instead of using the flathead. You push it up just like that. Perfect. Hey, check this out. I stayed up last night and I did a full finish weld on the top of the floor pans. So we got stitch welding across here, all the way around the middle there, across the front. I did a patch in that corner and I did a patch in this corner because both ones, I had cut the floor pan down before I had fully fit it down in here, and it was a little bit too short. And then I did a full seam weld there, full seam weld on the far side, because they're kind of sketchy areas. I think I forgot to do a couple stitches in here, but I can stitch those up easily and finish that seam weld. Otherwise, the top is pretty much good to go here, aside from maybe like a little die grinder work to smooth it out, get some spatter out of the way. Now it's time to go to the bottom, because down here I have some pieces that were lapped over with the top, and I need to make sure that these are all kind of stitch welded in as well. And we're going to do seam sealer on all the seams here, all the stitch welding, make sure everything is good to go. We're probably going to seam seal this stuff as well. I just want to make sure that everything is reducing the chance that we're going to get water intrusion and water sitting between two pieces of metal. This one also needs to be kind of spot welded into the floor pan. The floor pan is thicker than this piece, so it should be relatively simple. I say that now, but I probably shouldn't say that because it's going to anger the gods. Well, I guess that's about it. It's definitely far from perfect, but I'm going to call it. We have, let's see, this is up on the driver's side here. We have a little crack, rusty crap here on the inside of the rocker. Not going to fix it. Other issues. This piece that holds the long pan was significantly down from the floor pan, so I had to make a little angle bracket there, weld that in. The welding isn't the greatest, but it's very strong, so it's not going anywhere. Then here there's a rust crack, and the rust crack I just decided I'd cut out. I figured it was just going to be the floor pan above that, but nope, it was the inner seat bracket mount, so I had to patch that up again. Not the best, but man, I really kind of wish I would have cut more out and made new panels from scratch here. Speaking of a couple little holes here, we can't really access those right now. I'm going to do seam sealer over it and act like it didn't happen. Otherwise, I went through and did my stitch welding the best I could, upside down at weird angles, and I mean, my shoulders are pretty much touching the top of the car right now, trying to show you, so there's not a lot of room work in here. Yeah, that all got stitch welded in pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that, and all the holes are small enough that I can smear, seam sealer over it and just cover that up the way it is. This driver's side footwell behind the front seat has enough holes. It's past midnight now. I'm very tired. I'm gonna go in, but we got all the welding done that I want to do to this thing. At this point, I gotta cut it off somewhere. I gotta make an arbitrary decision of we're gonna move forward with what we got, and we're gonna leave the rest for a future date. I can tell you the driver's rear floor pan where your feet go in the rear seat is not one of those temporary unless it works. I actually have to go in to fix that. Hole in the near future after we do POR, but I don't have the time until then. So we're going to go forward tomorrow morning. Going to get up, bring the polycarbide wheel out, and I'm going to go and try to start clearing all the rust and excess paint and anything else that's underneath this car out of there. The factory was very, very liberal with their seam sealing, so I'm going to do the same and just make sure all of the seams and cracks and everything are just sealed right up. I lined up my accelerator pedal here, and the bracket goes from this hole to this hole, and there's a little pivot back there. The pivot wouldn't line up because I had cut off this piece that was originally indented in the Clark's panel because I had not lined up my floor pan correctly, so now I have to recreate the indent that Clark's already put in there and I already cut out so I can fit my accelerator in there. And you can see this is the pivot that has to kind of sit against the floor but also have clearance. That's it, fellers. We got it. The shifter installs. The shifter moves around into every quadrant. We got our captive nut down here for the accelerator pedal. This is all pushed down like it was in the original floor pan section that I cut out and made flat. So that's all fixed. Everything else is looking pretty good. I tried to patch up a little bit of the welds along the corners. There are a couple little cracks in certain areas in the corners, but we're gonna just fill that with the seam sealer and go on our merry way. Time to go clean this thing up. I'm gonna vacuum it out. We're gonna clean it out. Then we're going to vacuum it out. Then we're going to do the Port 15 cleaner degreaser. Rinse that all down, top and bottom. Then we'll come back with the metal prep, top and bottom. Rinse that off, top and bottom. Then we're going to do our seam sealing. Here are the results of the metal prep. So the nicer, the new panels started from more of a shiny look to more of a cloudy look. So you can see that worked. And then over here, this got wet a few times, so it got a little more surface rust than usually happens. It's gonna be fine. I'm gonna paint over it, it's gonna stick, but just looks pretty ugly. I'm gonna start on the bottom side, which also has the yellow tinge. Now I'm gonna come under here first, do the seam sealer down here, go do the seam sealer on the top. By the time I get the top done, the bottom will probably be flashed over, that half-hour limit you have to hit, and then I'll come in and paint the bottom with the Port 15, and when that's done, I'm gonna go paint the top with Port 15, and that's supposed to flash out within about 3 hours. It's pretty dry in here. I'm gonna have the dehumidifier on, so I think maybe an hour and a half is probably more realistic, but should get this thing done tonight. It's gonna be a late night. It's about 7:30 right now. I got home, I ate, and we're out here. We're gonna work. We're gonna get this thing painted today, and I'm gonna top coat the upper top of the floor pan with some kind of black spray paint, not sure what, but that's going to see UV for a little bit until I get a carpet. The third coat, the last coat, is going to be this 3M rubberized coating on the underside. We're going to do, I think, 1 or 2 coats of that, and we'll do just whatever cheap black spray paint on the top to keep the UV off of the Port 15. I thought it was going to be a lot easier timeline tonight. I thought I was going to have downtime between coats, but it looks like it just takes so long to paint this thing that it's going to be boom, 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 boom. I'm going to be working for, I don't know, 5 hours straight. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to have a drink and I'm going to watch some YouTube because I'm gonna be tired. Well, it's all done. I ended up finishing around 12:30 in the morning, and oh yeah, I'm super covered in paint, and that's all over. The back of my head is covered in little paint dots, so I'm getting a haircut in a couple days because it's just the paint is in my hair. It hurts. So it's gonna be what it is, and the car is painted. Inside, we're actually looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it overall. I did paint this corner. Yeah, I think that'll do. At least for now. I think it's gonna be good for a long time though. Underneath, I'm really happy with it. It looks almost factory to me. Looks like I missed a little spot in the tunnel, but that doesn't really matter because it'll be covered up anyway. This part, I don't know. We have to finish that later this year, I think. The rest of it, I think, is good to go. I think there's only one thing left to do, and let's try to fit that seat in there. What? I had this thing fit up before, and everything fit, and now this one's off. I can't really bolt the sliders in, and there's some interference right now, but I want to put the seat in, so let's see if the seat will just fit. Ho ho! My very own Chevrolet Corvair. The seat's gonna have to move a lot further forward. I'm a small person, but that seems like a very big milestone. Before, there was no seat in here, there was no kind of floor to sit on, and we got to put in. So there are a couple things that I would have done differently in this project, and the first one is that I probably would have cut out a lot more of the floor pan right off the bat, and the second was with those seat brackets, the way I had to weld those together with a million different pieces. I would have definitely tried to form them some other way. Now, I got pretty decent with the body hammer and making repair panels, and I made a little corner that worked pretty well, but I think that in the future I would have probably made some kind of die and made those patch panels from scratch. And you can see in the previous episode what I'm talking about. But that would have potentially saved like a week. What's done is done, and I got the floor in, but it took a lot longer than I was anticipating. Anyway, I think that's it for this episode. I will see you next time. We have a fuel tank ultimate kit on the way. We're going to be dropping the axle, painting some more back there, and we'll be putting up all the fuel lines, all the brake lines, and then putting the drivetrain in. Press on.